With that, welcome you inside this edition of Big Ten Today. Rick Pizzo, Howard Griffith. We didn't know, but now you know. Apparently, it's Quarter Zip Wednesday here on the Big Ten Network. In years past, we would have already crowned a national champion in college football. Now we're still a day away, but getting awfully close to the national semifinals.
It's really an exciting time, and you talk about the programs that are in this 14 playoff right now, the blue bloods of college football. This is exciting to see, and I know the fan bases are excited as well.
Don't have to wait much longer. Our big story takes us down to South Florida and the outskirts of Miami, where the CFP semifinals kick off Thursday night between Penn State and Notre Dame. The Nittany Lions, 2 wins away from turning their first ever playoff trip into a national title, while Notre Dame seeks its first trip to the Natty under head coach Marcus Freeman. Not only have both these teams been dominant so far in the CFP, they also share remarkably rich histories. Both rank among the top 7 all-time in total wins, top 10 in win percentage, and weeks spent inside the AP top 25. Plus, each has sent hundreds of players to the NFL draft. In fact, no program has had more players drafted than Notre Dame. And yet all these numbers mean absolutely nothing inside the White Lines Thursday, a fact certainly not lost on Marcus Freeman or James Franklin.
Excited to be here. It's been a crazy college football season, not only for Penn State, but really across the board. And, we couldn't be more excited to be here and, playing in the Orange Bowl, such a historic game. Penn State and Notre Dame got great history together as well. 2 storied programs. Got a ton of respect for Marcus. Just really honored to be here and represent Penn State in the Big Ten.
Looking forward to a great opportunity tomorrow night versus a extremely good football team. As Coach Franklin said, I have a lot of respect for him and the job he's done in college football, and this football team is a very good one that we have to continue to prepare for. We've got to use these next 24 hours to finish our preparation in anticipation of this great opportunity that lies ahead.
No matter who wins on Thursday, history will be made. We'll see the first African-American head coach in a national title game will either be James Franklin or Marcus Freeman, 2 coaches who have had to overcome a lot, including criticism from their own fan bases sometimes, despite success. And now they have a chance to answer all of those critics and get to a spot where very few programs have ever been.
Yeah, let's start off with Marcus Freeman. And really, we go back because we had an opportunity to cover him as a player. And then as his coaching has continued to get better to his now as being the head coach of Notre Dame, being a GA at Ohio State, going to Purdue under Darrell Hazel, being the defensive coordinator, then going to Cincinnati, doing a tremendous job there, and then finding himself at Notre Dame where there were options. He could have gone to LSU for a lot more money than taking the job at Notre Dame as a DC, and he's really grown and gotten better each and every year, and we've watched a young coach on a big stage. It's hard to do a job like Notre Dame on the big stage being your first head coaching job, but he's been able to navigate that. And I think if you watched the press conference this morning, he talked about some of his mentors, and as you put a staff together, having Al Golden there who has experience being a head coach to allow him to work through it, and then adding Denbrock. So they've all had a lot of things, and you go back and think about the Northern Illinois. It was like, hey, what are we doing here?
Sky's falling.
Exactly. And they were able to recover. And then you think about James Franklin, and we talked about this a little bit before. Nobody, I don't think, prepares more for a press conference than James Franklin does. Each and every time he steps in front of the podium, it's almost like that's his preparation for the game as well. And he does an unbelievable job. But the criticism that he's faced throughout the years of you can't win the big one, you can't beat the teams that are winning the championships, when are you going to get there? But he's continued to stay the course, and he's continued to make the tweaks at his coordinator position. Think about this. He continues to lose defensive coordinators, but continues to find a way to continue to stay where he needs to be, right in striking distance. And now this year it's been able to take him over the top with Tom Allen on the defensive side, Kolanicki on the offensive side. So he's continued to surround himself with outstanding coordinators that have really been able to elevate and then go on from Penn State become head coaches. So we're watching 2 coaches here who have gotten opportunities that they were qualified for, having to deal with some of the outside distractions that go on all the time, no matter what color you are, but they've grown in their positions, and really two guys that I think you really can't lose by having them run your program.
And what speaks volumes, I think, about both those gentlemen, the fact that players stay. Look at Penn State, Nick Singleton, Katron Allen. How many other programs do two first-team running backs, which they would be pretty much any place else in the country, decide to stick together for as long as they've stuck together? And that is a big reason why Penn State is in the spot that it's in. Of course, at this point in the year, Howard, as the year of college football gets longer and longer, injuries become a bigger story, and that's certainly the case in the Orange Bowl as well.
And one of the things we talked about really coming into the season, if you were going to make a deep run, you were going to need to have a deep roster, and you were going to need to be able to get those young players or those backup players prepared to play on the big stage as you continue to move toward a championship. And that's what both teams, Penn State and Notre Dame, have had to do to get to this particular point. You look at Penn State, probably their two best defensive linemen. They're not necessarily great pass rushers, but they are space eaters, and they can control the line of scrimmage. You look on the other side at Penn State, Abdul Carter, one of the best defensive players in all of the country, if not the best. They all have had injuries, but what we've seen is we've seen other people raise their level. Guys that they've seen be able to make plays, and that's what you're going to need. Even if you're getting a 75% or 80% Carter, if you can get him to maximize what he needs to do in schemes in certain situations, he can have a huge impact on this game, and I know he will.
James Franklin did address Carter's health at that press conference on Wednesday morning. He said Abdul has basically not left the training room and his hyperbaric chamber that he spent some time in, posted that to his Instagram earlier in the week. Franklin said they are preparing as if Abdul Carter will play on Thursday night. Whether he's 100% or not, we probably won't know about that until kickoff. But you mentioned the guys who stepped up in his absence in that win over Boise State in the Fiesta Bowl, limiting Ashton Jeanty to a season low in terms of rushing yards. Dennis Sutton was terrific. Vanover's sideline-to-sideline speed showed off. Tony Rojas has just become a legitimate D1 star at that linebacker position. There are, however, other names that we don't hear a lot, and I know there's at least one guy who you think could be a legitimate X factor for Penn State on Thursday night.
Yeah, I think when you look at Penn State and what they're able to do, particularly you talk about controlling the line of scrimmage. Zane Durant is a guy that I've really loved the way he plays inside, very active as a run stopper, also as a pass rusher. You talk about getting pressure off the edge. Where does the quarterback need to do? He's got to step up in the pocket. Well, the problem is when Zane Durant is in the middle of that pocket, he's creating havoc, and there's nowhere for them to go. So he, I think, is going to be a huge pivotal piece to play in this game, because that's one of the toughest spots to get a guy that has the leverage that he has from a height standpoint, but has the ability to really get after the run and the pass. It really makes things a lot easier for those edge rushers to get to the quarterback.
Tom Allen, will utilize him in the best way possible. Allen has done such a great job. But you already mentioned Al Golden and the job that he's done as the DC for Notre Dame. Two guys who had a ton of success as head coaches as well, and so much experience. It's not just about the coaches. It's not just about the players. When you get to this stage, it's about everybody, including how the coordinators mesh together, including the play calling and everything that goes into Thursday night. You want to win a game of this magnitude against the opponent of the quality that you're going to be facing, you have to do everything just about perfectly.
You really do, and you have to have your players peaking at the right time. We've noticed that, right? We talk about Ohio State and what they've looked like offensively. Well, Penn State has looked the same way going back to the Big Ten championship game, where that offense apparently exploded out of nowhere, but that just didn't happen in that particular game. That's things that they've been working toward this entire season to get to that point. And they're going to need a lot of these players to be able to step up and make plays in this game. But you're right, when you talk about some of the coordinators, the position coaches getting it right, Notre Dame, the other side, Al Golden gets all the credit. But how about Mike Denbrock, the offensive coordinator, who's also been around, been at Cincinnati, really did a great job there, and also at LSU, being back at Notre Dame after he's a longtime Notre Dame assistant before. This is really going to be a fun game when you start to think about the coordinators and just the rich history. There are not any coordinators in there that don't have experience. When you think about it,
nobody's going to be nervous.
Yeah, these guys have been in these spots before and understand what it's going to take. But at the end of the day, it needs the players on the field to make the plays and not make mistakes.
Should be a really cool chess match. 4 teams remain, 3 games left in the playoff. We're 2 wins away from an all Big Ten championship
down
game
for that.
and what would be a rematch of Ohio State's tight win over Penn State at Beaver Stadium. What a rematch that would be if it were to come true on January the 20th.